Okay, hello and welcome. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing pretty good. We're going to be continuing with more Command and Conquer Renegade tonight. However, before we started, I thought it would be interesting to have a look back through some PC Powerplay magazines I have to have a read of a review of the game which came out around the time when this game was released. I don't think I read the review at the time. I didn't really read the reviews in the magazine. I was more concerned about the demos which came along with it. But yeah, so I had a look through the editions of PC Powerplay, which, for people who don't know, it is an Australian... I don't know whether it's still going or not. I think it is, but I think it's just a digital copy now. It's an Australian PC gaming publication, like Hyper or PC Game. I forget what the American version of it is. It's not PC Game Gear or something, is it? Anyway, it's very similar. But yeah. So I actually have a PDF here of the... Let me just bring this up here. Oh, hang on. There we go. Okay. I have a PDF here of the April edition from 2002 of PC Powerplay, with a very representative image of Warcraft 3, which was still to be coming out at the time period. And you can see on the CD down there, there is actually a number of the different games which were on offer at the time. We can see, hang on, let me just, how to do this. Zoom. Nope. Hang on, we're going through the things. Okay. There we go. So, we can see a bunch of the games which were available on the CD at the time. Strife Shadow, which is a game which I mean to do on stream sometime. It's quite interesting. It's a real-time strategy game, which the full version of was never released. It was just the single-player demo, and I think it was planned as being more like a multiplayer game, but yeah, the development of it ended up falling through. I don't remember it being anything particularly interesting, but hey, what else is there? Capitalism 2, Wizardry 8, IL2 Stumovic, and Disciples 2, which I think is one of those, like, it's one of these, like, 3D card game, turn-based strategy games or something like that. It's kind of like, from what if it's the game I'm thinking of, it's kind of like Heroes of Might and Magic, but you have a deck of cards which determines things like summoning monsters during a battle, using spells, and all that. I'd like to go back and have a look at that, because I never really had patience for it at the time. So, yeah, let me just fit this to... Come on. Stretch. Hold on. Right. There we go. I was transforming the wrong one. Okay, there we go. Let's zoom out. Okay, so. Adverts. Mitsubishi Electric Australia. #1 monitor vendor. A big old CRT made by Mitsubishi. So, I didn't have a good idea of what other games came out around the time of, at least in the same year as Command & Conquer Renegade. And looking through this, I realized that I think later that year, Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast came out. And, yeah, I think compared to Renegade, Jedi Outcast is a far superior game. I really like this game. I do own it, and Academy. I haven't played it in ages. But yeah, just the lighting, the effects, the movement, the character animations, kind character movements in Outcast are actually a bit stiffer than in Renegade, but the mouth lip syncing, such as it is much better. There's not so much flappy mouth looking like the characters have a mouth full of marbles. But yeah, environments, lighting, and textures are a lot nicer in Outcast 2 than they are in Renegade. And I don't think there's any bump mapping in Outcast either. All the different sections here. These magazines also came with various anime reviews, which I've never really watched much anime, so I don't know too much about it. There's an Xbox controller, because I think it was coming out. Aquanox, Etherlords, or Etherlords. Static. What's this? Top-down 2D isometric RPG. It's like Fallout. I do not know that game. Why Static deserves a second look. It's not Fallout 3, but it could be. Fallout 3 had been announced at the time. 2D isometric RPG adventuring. Fresh young development team at the helm. You could be involved. Crated. Indiana Jones things. Morrowind's coming. Publisher, huh? Why do they not have a publisher? Isn't it published by Bethesda or ZeniMax? Anyway, Diablo 2 crippled. This is serious, Sam Comp. There's Command & Conquer Renegade, going for 90 Australian dollars. That would be about 60 US at the time. Yep, games here cost about $100 new. Though I haven't paid $100 for them for ages, because Steam often has large sales, as I'm sure everyone knows. War Commander, that's one of those squad-based tactical shooters thingies, which I was never too much of a fan of. Let's see. Global Operations, Icewind Dale 2, a lot of fun. Dungeon Siege, quite a bit of fun, if rather repetitive. I've never finished it. I got close, but I got bored. Article about Warcraft 3. If I do Warcraft 3, I might return back to some of this, because there's a lot of there was a lot of changes, I think, in the development of Warcraft 3. The death of genres. All the game genres which were falling to the wayside in 2002. Proto-genres. Games which don't really fit into established genres. R-Type or Galaga, well, they're side-scrollers. Platformers, which weren't really a thing at the time, because they were seen as being something for more the DOS era. You know, Commander Keen and Prince of Persia and Super Mario there. It's got Tomb Raider there as well, and Abe's Odyssey. Tomb Raider's a bit odd to be there. I guess it is a platformer. 3D platformer. Adventure games, yep. There hadn't been any real good adventure games released for a while. Well, it was 2002. It wasn't too long since the Hit the Road and Day of the Tentacle and so on. Like about 4 or 5 years. Grim Fandango. It was going into that period where adventure games were 3D and making mistakes in that regard. Single-player FPSs. There was a rise in the multiplayer FPS. Quake 3 Arena, Unreal Tournament 99, and various others. Turn-based strategy games. I don't know too much about that. I guess there's Total War there, which I think was on Medieval, or that was coming out soon. So, yeah. Anyway, Dungeon Siege. Here we go. CNC Renegade. The War on Terror finds a new ally. I actually read a bit about Renegade after the stream last night, and it turns out that the character was actually planned to be a different guy. The one who was directing us during the training, I think his name was Logan Shepard. He was actually planned to be the main character for the game, but then they ended up changing it to this guy, Havoc, at some point. Let's see. This is written by one, let's let's see. James Cotty. Okay. Westwood games are like a dependable brand of fast food. Never amazing, never awful, but for the Westwood connoisseur, consistently palatable. Command & Conquer has primarily been a real-time strategy product, occasionally flirting with time travel, red alert, and voxel graphics, Tiberian Sun, which I haven't played, so I don't know how that's integrated in that. Does it have like terrain deformation, or is it just for the production of like 3D visuals? CNC Renegade presents a division into two fashionable game genres of late: dynamic first, third-person action, and online multiplayer bloodbath. By playing through the eyes of a GDI soldier, the result is a refreshing take on one of the oldest and silliest PC gaming franchises. As in most generic RTS games, the soldiers in the original Command & Conquer were pretty stupid. When left unattended, they would just stand around, maybe do the odd push-up, but were essentially inert. They had a nasty habit of sitting and taking any pummeling that came from outside their range, and would nobly attempt to clog up the treads of oncoming tanks with their pulverizing guts. Their pulverized guts. They weren't that bright in the pathing arena either. They could be counted on to automatically group themselves into little X patterns, and that was all. More expensive troopers were just a standard dumb grunt with a better weapon. Understandable for soldiers with only a few seconds of basic training, but frustrating regardless. Enter the commando. This special unit had the same weaknesses and speed as a standard trooper, but he was much, much deadlier. He could plant C4 to destroy an enemy building in a single blast, and his sniper rifle could take out any man in a single shot. Let me zoom in a bit more. He also had an attitude reflected in his gruff, overconfident soundbites. While hearing "that was left-handed" for the 20th time with a little grating, he added a whole new dimension to the game. Instead of sending in waves of cannon fodder, one took control at a level that more resembled the highly tactical Commandos too. The Commando unit has been such a success that he's been mimicked in every Westwood game since, each time becoming a welcome avatar for the player's destructive fantasies. Ever the populists, Westwood has made its latest game a celebration of the Commando, putting you in his shoes from go to woe. While the single-player campaign game is a standard good versus evil conflagration, the multiplayer options are more involved, allowing one to play any conceivable battlefield role in the forces of either the Global Defense Initiative or the Brotherhood of Nod. Yeah, I don't actually know too much about the multiplayer aspect of Renegade. The single-player game is rock solid like its protagonist, Major Havoc. Havoc is the archetypical 80s action point man, and while he doesn't indulge any disgusting personal habits like chewing tobacco, one does not doubt for a second that he's a sexual tyrannosaurus. Really. Sporting a crew cut, a complete set of official GDI merchandise coming soon to a mooks near you, and a bad attitude, he's ready to rock the third world, not with airlifts or Bibles or the Green Lift Weekly, but with one-liners and hot lead. In the continued absence of Nukem Forever, he's the best value white male power fantasy on the market. GDI is, of course, an all-inclusive strike force representing the few respectable nations of the world. Equally egalitarian is Nod, with their ranks swelling from the lowest of places. The opening cinematics reveals the boss dudes you'll face later in the game, a comical rogue gallery that only Westwood's fine FMV sensitives could do justice. Ruthless Colombian terrorist Mendoza, Japanese killer babe Sakura, and the diminutive General Rackenshaw. We didn't actually see too much about them, nicknamed Mini-Me by an anonymous PCPP staffer. We haven't actually seen too much of the villains. They sort of showed up in a brief, these are these dudes, but they don't really mean too much, and I've fought Mendoza and Sakura. So, anyway. The good guys have equally diverse ranks, populated with a good majority of young women in tight-fitting uniforms. Very, very professional. It's immediately obvious that the entire game environments have been modeled closely on the map elements of the original CNC. Strolling through a base, one soon see that even a normal-sized power station is enormous when compared to the human scale. The dividing walls in a top-down RTS become cavernous ravines, and the crazy architecture finally begins to make sense. When you look down at the preposterous Hand of Nod barrack structure, it was a very silly thing. But when you look up at its tower, a giant hand squeezing a blood-red globe, its power and purpose are overwhelming. As one mere mortal in this large and unforgiving game world, things seem stacked against you at first. But that's just the way Havoc likes it, as long as he's heavily armed. The row of number keys selects from the available weapons as is custom, and the ballistic range is most impressive. Weakest is the silenced pistol, but more weapons are far more Most weapons are far more damaging and versatile. I really haven't used a pistol, even though it's got unlimited ammo. There are sniper rifles, flamethrowers, assault rifles, and various explosives. The sniper scope only enlarges the view a little, and negates most of this benefit with green screen cyberbolics. Yeah, it is kind of annoying how it has a green filter over everything, and it's sort of restricted to the center of the screen. You'll find when I was using it previously, I would put the targeting crosshair over the target I was wanting to shoot and then zoom in on the target because I would get lost just trying to use the scope itself. But it's a great weapon regardless. It is able to penetrate multiple targets, or at least two, as are the rocket launcher. It's just a thing for marauding enemy air support. Explosive charges play a powerful role, offering the same versatility and satisfaction of Duke's old pipe bombs. I haven't actually used the charges too much, only for blowing up stationary objects. More powerful than standard C4 is the ion cannon beacon, which can call in a strike from one of GDI's space-based laser satellites. To think of all the criticism that missile defenses get these days, when it's so obviously essential to the war on terror, again, the personal scale makes this super weapon from the original game seem a lot more of a killer death ray. The entire sky lights up, and bands of concentric blue light pulses as to make the Earth itself shudder under its wrath. More so than with the C4, it's a good idea to clear the scene of the crime after setting one. All of those weapons are satisfying and empowering, but nothing beats the thrill of... Let's see. We actually have some screenshots here. Recognize that. It's from the second level, I think. Yeah, when you're in your tank. Charging against the Nod base. That's, I think... I'm not actually sure where that was. Kind of in the desert, in the snow level. This is... Or was that near to this part, when you're on the beach area? The screenshots are probably taken sequentially through the game. There you go. Getting behind the wheel of some vehicular hardware from the CNC universe. Simply approach a Hummer. Look for the little green triangles that, in the semiotics of the CNC universe, means you can go inside this thing. Press E and you're away. The action switches from first to third person, and one is immediately playing things at a much faster pace. The mechanics start to feel less like GoldenEye and more like Halo. They don't sound like PC games to me, editor. And with high speed and unlimited ammo, this is a very good thing. Vehicle sequences provide a break from the methodical, paranoid world of being a lone gunman. Once inside a jeep, or better yet a tank, the game will typically devolve into a shooting gallery free-for-all. The power trip from driving the mammoth tank is incredible, both in its raw power and its versatility. For oncoming vehicles, blasting away with the twin cannons. For infantry, the right mouse button fires its trademark rockets. I don't think I found that. I think both of the mouse buttons were using the cannons. I might have to look into that. Did I even try to use the right mouse button when I was in a mammoth tank? I noticed it had the missile racks, but which also work great on helicopters. And when the little red bastards get up close and personal, tank treads make the exact same squishing sound from the original game. Tied together the first and third person action is a hierarchy of objectives that sets out to make the battlefield as dynamic as possible. The skies overhead buzz constantly with activity, as friendly orcas and enemy Apaches duel for the skies. Yeah, the sense of a war going on all around you is quite impressive for the beginnings of the levels. It sort of peters off as you go through, but there's some really nice set pieces in the game early on. Cargo planes streak overhead, dropping either enemy troopers or friendly munitions. Scripted radio chatter bursts to life, and wave after wave of suicide squads compete for your bullets. Aiming to make this experience as interactive as possible, there are player-controlled factors that can make a big change on the order of battle. Objectives are defined as primary and secondary. A handy-dandy color-coded compass keeps track of these emerging threats, listing the direction and distance to each. Secondary objectives are, strictly speaking, optional, but they always directly assist Havoc in his cause. Say some gun emplacements preventing any GDI forces from landing on a given beachhead. Take out the turrets and a hovercraft will arrive to give you a battle tank. I found most of these optional objectives are things which I would generally complete anyway, just because they make the whole situation easier to handle. Experienced macho players may choose to forego such rewards in favor of speed, but By and large, these little subquests help fill the level with bite-sized rewards for a job well done. Positive reinforcement is the order of the day in Renegade, and all you have to do is work at it. In the CNC continuity, Renegade begins shortly after the discovery of the mysterious alien planet Tiberium. It leaches minerals out of alien plant Tiberium. It leaches minerals out of the surrounding soil, concentrating them into green, easily pluckable crystals. With Tiberium fields popping up all over the world, once worthless lands are now precious, and GDI and Nod forces are waging a worldwide war for control of this amazing resource. Tiberium plays a big role in Renegade too, not only in the single-player game, where the gassy Tiberium fields sap your health as you approach, but also in multiplayer, where it dictates the entire in-game economy. The multiplayer action in Renegade is truly something else. While the typical size of a multiplayer map would be minuscule in the scale of the original CNC, it's enormous when viewed through the eyes of a lone soldier. Multiplayer Renegade grants you the opportunity to take part in epic combat, where every soldier is controlled by a separate human player. This opens up greater flexibility, even than in online Wolfenstein, at a scale more on par with World War II Online. Spend the points and you can be almost any character in the CNC universe. Hero units have their own special abilities, like the use of sniper rifles, and all the other classics are in there, like grenadiers and rocket soldiers. So are all the vehicles, like tanks, mammoth tanks, and even the Nod stealth tank. All units behave the same as they did at a smaller scale, so all matters of unit cost, firepower, and armor are already balanced. The same standard health bar that shows up as green, yellow, or red is still there. Another reminder that everything old is new again. Structures perform the same purpose as before, and are perpetually vulnerable to sneak attacks. Take out the power plant and all other buildings work at reduced efficiency. Take out the Tiberium refinery and their cash flow grinds to a halt. The same goes for the harvester. There are multiple roles that can be played in any engagement. The meek and inexperienced can hang back and play engineers, while the cigar-chomping gun-ho types can storm ahead. For smaller engagements, the Renegade engine leaves the battlefield feeling empty and underutilized, but for large-scale skirmishes, it's a dream come true. There is a huge range of weapons, characters, options, and maps to choose from, and this lends a whole new dimension to the staid RTS tactic of old. The stealth tanks in particular are devastating when used judiciously. It's all good, stupid fun. For a game that's seemingly nothing more than populist escapist bollocks, Renegade is amazingly good. For those too young to remember the very first Command & Conquer, it's an excellent introduction into the G.I. Joe mentality of the CNC universe. Yeah, it feels very much that it could just be swapped over for G.I. Joe quite easily. For postmodern 20-somethings, it's a delightfully cartoonish return to the follies of youth. There is doubtless a wedge of arts undergraduates in between who will find it jingoistic and offensive, but that's more likely to spend their spare time changing trees. For the rest of us, Renegade is a backwards look into the War of Tomorrow, and it's an incredible view. So that's more of a description of the game than any real sort of opinions on it. You got for and against ratings here. Good, stupid, violent fun. Deep multiplayer. Drive a mammoth tank. Against. Game engine not the best. Limited single player lifespan. Jokes are only funny once. And it's got an 89 out of 100. As was the scoring system in PC Powerplay at the time. They later changed it to a score out of 10. So, yeah. So, interesting. It does seem like the focus was really more on the multiplayer than the single player. And it's interesting because I sort of got hints of that from playing the game, that there was like an economy which is kind of working behind the scenes, or at least the potential functionality for multiplayer behind the scenes. But you don't really see that. Well, you wouldn't see that fighting against the AI. Because I wouldn't expect the AI to use the economy in the game. It'd be a bit too complicated for them. What's next? Comanche 4. But yeah, I mean, that was an interesting read. Said it could have gone maybe a bit more into like graphics and how it ran and all that, but yeah. Comanche 4. Dark Age of Camelot. That was an MMO. They later went on to make Warhammer Online. I remember people saying that Dark Ages of Camelot was pretty fun. You had, I think, 3 factions which you could be a member of. World War II Online. This is the game which I was talking about. Blitzkrieg. I have not heard of this. Looks like an early version of, like, Battlefield 1942. StarTech. Bridge Commander. Serious Sam. Got an 81. Wow, it actually scored less than Renegade. Of course, it's different people scoring it, I think, so. More Sam. Repetitive. Cockrock. Oh, this is second encounter. Okay. Europa Universalis 2. Black and White Creature Isle. Yeah, right, Black and White had been out. So. Yeah, I have the expansion for Black and White, but my CD's all scratched. I don't remember that adding too much. Deadly Dozen. Tropico, Paradise Island. Is that an expansion? Yeah, it's an expansion. I didn't know it had one. Pepsi Max Extreme Sports. Here we go. Here's a full-page advertisement for Renegade. Anything interesting in those screenshots there? I think the sniper rifle there looks a bit different. Hold on. Let me have a zoom in. Yeah, the back of the sniper rifle. It's got like a little view screen on it. That tank looks different too. And the building? Maybe? Havoc looks the same. That's the grenade launcher. That looks like the other guy, Logan. That seems like it's the ship level. Maybe that's a vehicle which I haven't seen yet. Maybe it's the flame tank it's mentioning there. You can win stuff. Flat screens. 2002. Then they would have a section about, like, the best value motherboards and graphics cards which you could get. And I think they also had a section where, yeah, here, which is like, out of all the stuff which was available at the time for different price values, you could build your own computer, build your computer using these parts. AMD Athlon XP 2000 plus, MSI K7, blah 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 blah. Some RAM, I think. AMD CPU motherboards go. Oh, okay, so motherboard. 512 Odin 300 megahertz RAM. Wow, nearly wow, half a gigabyte. Thermaltake Volcano 7. A CPU fan. A power supply 420 watts PSU. Video subsystem audio. Absolute Morpheus GeForce 3 Ti 500. Creative Audigy Platinum XP. Boston Acoustics Digital Theater 6000. Sony MDR F1 headphones. And then you've got storage devices. Let's see. 73 gigabyte hard drive. 16 times DVD ROM. 3 1/4 floppy drive. Yeah, they may be retro, but they're still handy. $25. What else? What monitor? 22-inch Diamondtron 2060U monitor. The CRT. Wow, 2,099 Australian dollars. Leon Lee PC 6080X aluminium case. Microsoft Internet keyboard. Logitech Mouseman dual optical. Joystick. And also they have what's it called? Driving wheel, racing wheel and pedals. And then they have these other ones which are like still good parts, but quite a bit cheaper. I think they do other ones as well. Oh no, okay. Looks like they added those later. What are these? Different mods. Quake 3 Generations. Freedom Force skins. You can play as Batman in Freedom Force. Freedom Force is a like a superhero pastiche 3D squad-based game. Hello, welcome. That's a wheel you had. I've never had a racing wheel. Logitech Momo Force. 499 AUD. Yeah, I used some of the PC Powerplay magazines to help build my computer in the past. Because they would have other sections where it was like, you know, here's build a computer for around $3,000. So I'd just be like, yeah. Their suggestions are pretty good, I think. So I take parts of what they suggest. Good place to start from. A Deus Ex mod. Oh no, this is for Heretic 2. Skull Hunters. D-Day Normandy. Quake 2. Yep, World War 2 fighting game. What's this? Deus Ex mod. Ex-Powerplay staffers along with a group of dedicated Swell Guys cohorts have begun work on what could be the greatest ever mod for the greatest game ever game. Deus Ex work has only just begun, so we won't be seeing anything resembling a finished product anytime soon, but you can expect big things. We do. Set some time after the events portrayed in Deus Ex and taking place in good old Sydney, the mod looks like it will be an entirely new story arc, which has been described as System Shock meets Half-Life. If there's two games we hear at PowerPoint talk about, other than Deus Ex, of course, it's System Shock and Half-Life. We're not going to spoil the story for you, but it involves rogue AI, illegal surveillance, double agents, human-computer hybrids, and a killer plague. What more could you want? It sounds like Deus Ex. Okay, I don't know what that's talking about. It doesn't have a title there for the mod. Salted Empire for Star Trek Elite. And Pearman for Unreal. I think I remember that. Yeah. I vaguely remember that. Pearman. Because it had a, I think this is from it. It's like a variant of the what's it called? Flat cannon. Except it fired the bombs every time rather than either shrapnel or a bomb. Or it fired like a bomb and then it fired a variant which stuck to walls and it hunkered down, and then when enemies ran nearby it would pop out and... Well, I might be thinking of something else. I think I was thinking of something else now that I think about it. What else? Corkscrew Quake 3. CPU cooler is familiar as well. Noisy as heck. Yeah, when they get a bit of dust in them, it just starts... have to resort to percussive maintenance. Conundrum for Half-Life. Huh. This seems to be a mod which takes place after the events of Half-Life 1. Gordon Freedom stuck in Zen. I wonder if that's still available. So yeah, demos. Safari Biathlon, Disciples 2, Still Perfect Capitalism 2, blah blah blah. Oh, it's actually got it on the CD. I might have to look for the CD then. Is it the ads? Yeah. What anime? Kenshin. Wandering Samurai. Never heard of it. Baldur's Gate 2 Darkest Day. I think that's a mod. Oh, this I think is for a different version of the magazine. At the time I had a CD drive, so I got the one with the CD on it. This looks like if you had a DVD drive, you could get one with the DVD on it. Like had some more things on it. Oh, I didn't know that they did that. Then more heat sinks, and then Xbox peripherals for your keychain, apparently. Whoopee. Anyway, so yeah, that's just a look at the a review, more of a description really, of C&C Renegade from 2002, from April 2002. I actually have that magazine right here with me. You may be able to hear it. Anyway, I'll stop the recording here, and then I'll start it again so that we can start playing the game, so I can keep this separate.